Welcome to another episode of our Roadside Live. We are super excited to have you join us. Today, we have one of our own team members. Bridget is with us. She is one of our marketing account managers, and we are going to be talking about should I outsource this? And that's a very important topic. There's a lot that she's going to go over with us. So, Bridget, let's go ahead and just dive into it and tell us a little bit about yourself first off so they can kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, so I spent a good amount of time as an office manager in the past. And I started out as an assistant and kind of worked my way up. And then when I got to an office manager, I was like, well, what's the next step? And so I kind of found this idol and I stalked her in her career, and I eventually became her employee, actually, as a coach. And so I spent a lot of time in practices and in startups especially. And it's so great to have this platform to share our experiences with, because you have a similar background as well.
Yeah.
And so we talked a lot about this topic before the call even started. So,
Yeah, we did. And it's an interesting kind of blend that Bridget and I share of being in the dental world. And I think this will be a really good topic for us to discuss together because we don't normally get to do this together.
Yeah.
So, and like I was telling her beforehand, Bridget is one of those people that just makes me smile and laugh. So we will try and keep this professional, but I cannot guarantee that.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the different things that an office should outsource and why you would recommend that. Because I know there's a number of different areas that an office can, partake of that.
Yeah. So this is going to be one of those conversations that we have where we think back and we are like, why did I not know all this? If I only knew then what I know now, right?
Yep.
That's the story of our lives. I feel like, especially in dental. And before there was a lot of like Facebook forums and things like that, and we just didn't know. And
Yeah.
so, now that I can collect on that feeling and say, why would you want to outsource things?
Mm-hmm.
It really comes down to, what is your particular office like? So it depends on your situation, but what is it's really good as a practice owner to evaluate, what is my team spending time on? Are they spending time on menial tasks? For example, if you have a really busy practice and you are insurance heavy, the front, and you've got a considerable amount of new patients, or you want a considerable amount of new patients, let's say that's the potential there. If they're managing everything from insurance verification to answering the phone to greeting patients to paperwork, blah 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 blah, posting payments, all that good stuff, then you're missing out on a lot of opportunities like recare and marketing and treatment plan follow-up and customer service. And there's so many things that they could be doing other than these other menial things that, no one loves to do that, really. No one loves to call insurance companies. Let's face it.
Be real.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that more in a second, but keep in mind that dental practices are like an all-in-one. It's like a big company squished down into one little building. And if you think about those big companies, they have an HR department, they have an accounting department, they have a legal department. I have not run across a single dental practice with a team member on their payroll that went to school for HR.
Right.
Right?
Doesn't exist really. Yeah.
Exactly. That's called the office manager.
I was gonna say that's the all-in-one.
Yeah. And that person probably didn't get a lot of like specific training for that, or if any training at all. Some office managers are promoted from within, and they don't know. There's just so much that they don't know. And so, that's why I recommend outsourcing. So, yeah.
No, I think that's perfect. And that's a really good point because with HR specifically, there's so many legalities out there that you're right. Somebody who maybe started out in the dental field as an assistant, maybe got promoted to an office manager, they're not going to know some of these certain legalities and forms and things you have to have in the office, or different protocols of, disciplinary actions, things like that. So I think it's a really good point that you've touched on that. And I think maybe offices don't really think about that. They just think, it's not a big deal. We shouldn't really put focus on that, but it is a big deal, And so, well, that's a really good point. So what about let's talk about more of the specifics. So we now kind of know why we should do it. So we can free up our time. We can, get more patients in the door and put our focus there in the actual practice. But I know you've got about, 3 or 4 things here that you recommend outsourcing. So let's just kind of run through those, quickly and see what you think.
Yeah. So what I recommend is human resources, and then insurance verification, along with maybe some other admin tasks, marketing.
Yeah.
Which we're a little biased on that.
I was
but
going to say.
Talk about why.
Yes.
OSHA and infection control. I kind of lump those two together. And believe it or not, cleaning. So let me just touch on cleaning real quick.
Okay.
I've been watching some Facebook feeds in some of these forums about hiring, having a team member clean the office, and they're always complaining about like dishes left in the sink and like tables covered with snacks and stuff. And I'm like, don't do that to yourself. Just hire somebody to come in and do it, and maybe like share some of the smaller tasks in between. But my goodness, it just creates so much animosity. So that I threw that one in as a bonus. So
I think that's important though, because I remember working in a dental office, and you probably had the same thing. There's a rotation sheet of, oh, it's Bridget's week. Bridget's on the week of the 3rd, and she didn't pick up the dishes
she
or
never
whatever.
does it.
Never does it. And, somebody ate my lunch or whatever. So yeah, I think that's really important. And, just getting someone to do something as simple as that can take that, just that burden off of the staff and the animosity, like you said.
Yeah.
So I like the free there.
Agrees. So if I had known.
Right.
But going back to the bigger ones, I'll start with HR, because I think that is the most important one.
Yeah.
And I think that there is so much liability with HR. It's just staggering. Every time I see one of those online forums where an office manager wants to put together their own HR manual, I cringe, and I just get a little sad. Okay. I just get a little sad inside, because first of all, HR, even if you use a template, HR laws vary from state to state.
Absolutely.
So, and then you'd be really shocked by what you can't have in an HR manual. So there's things that you're not allowed to have. Like, I think I heard somewhere that I don't even know for sure, but I heard somewhere that gossip policies are not legal or something like that. Like there's so much that we don't know that should or shouldn't be in there. And now you have to consider your remote employees. So lots of things are being done outside of the office, and like we're going to talk about in a second with admin, how do you manage that? Like, how does that work in your office, and what are the legalities of it? So the other part of the HR, and I could spend all day on it, but the other part of it is mistakes during the hiring process, or holes during the hiring process. Hiring and onboarding are the biggest causes of turnover. Yeah. So a lack of training in the beginning, a lack of a good orientation and onboarding, those things are one of the highest causes of turnover in your office. So if you can get that right down in the beginning, you're so much better off. And so that's what an HR company can help you with. All the forms, some of them have an online portal, so you can just send a team member something that they need to sign through the portal, and you're done with it. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah. They remind you when things are due. They remind you when training is due, all those things. You have someone you can call and say,
Mhm.
hey, what do I do? Right? Like, I wish I had that person when I
Right.
was an office manager, you
Well,
know?
even that's a good point because, like, even like with COVID and everything that's been going on, that probably presented a whole new set of challenges in offices on an HR level. So,
Oh,
having,
yeah.
yeah, just having that go-to person to be like, they don't feel safe coming in. What do I do? How do I keep my practice running? You need someone like that in your corner. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that conversation is not over yet.
No, no,
We're
it's not.
far from that being over, so it's going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and then so that is why I recommend HR. And if
Mhm.
anybody and if any of our watchers need a recommendation, we're happy to throw some out there. But
Yeah.
the other big one is some admin tasks like insurance verification.
Mm.
There's some amazing companies out there with people that have worked in offices. I mean, even office managers that have left and maybe retired part time or something are working to help with insurance verification.
Yep.
That is huge, huge. That's a whole nother phone line that people can call your office and make an appointment with somebody
Absolutely.
else doing it, somebody that's not getting interrupted, somebody that doesn't have to worry about anything else, somebody that probably knows insurance better than some of your team members.
Right.
So that I even know offices that have outsourced billing phone calls,
Ah.
so yeah, someone else to call the patients and just say they can still say, hey, I'm calling with, there's ways to get your phone line to show the phone number, blah blah blah. I mean, the logistics are possible. You
Mhm.
just have to know where to look.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, and that frees up somebody to not only become like a true client concierge. you
Right.
know you also have someone that can help with marketing. So you've got that. Or I've talked to some practices that didn't even have somebody in the office during COVID because patients were calling from their car. So they
Mhm.
call and then someone's remoted in and they just say, hey, your patient's ready. And then somebody else swoops in and says, I'm ready for you. And then they take their temperature and bring them back. And that way they only have contact with one person until
Right.
they see the doctor. And so it's not impossible. And I really think that people should take advantage of that. Even if it's at one of your own team members working remotely, you're going to get a higher ROI. You're going to get less
Yep.
mistakes with the insurance when you have someone that is solely for that purpose. If you don't have a staff or a team that's trained well on new patient calls,
Mhm.
there's companies out there that have amazing phone skills
Yeah.
while you get your team trained or you are looking for somebody that has the right phone skills. You can have somebody else do it and
Yeah.
handle your new patient calls. How great is that? um,
Imagine.
I know, like, don't try and do it if it's not that your team would be doing a bad job, they just might not have the skill set to do it.
Right.
So
Right.
hire someone that does have the skill set to do it.
Or the time, I mean, you and I
Right.
both it's a if you're in a especially if you're in a multi-doctor practice, I mean, the time suck that takes up to do insurance calls and admin calls and new patient reminders and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. And I think that offices do that are smart for doing it.
Mhm.
Especially if you need it. If you have the room physically and you've got enough phone lines to go on forever, then go for it.
Right.
That it's not for everybody, but I do think now's a good time to say, is this something that I need? You
Mhm.
know. The other thing is so OSHA and infection control.
Mhm.
Another big thing right now. This is lighting up the forums, of
Yeah,
course, those
it
forums
is.
and questions. And in light of what's happening and what is still happening, I mean, offices are all over the place. Like some
Mhm.
offices are done taking temperature. Some of them are going to still take temperature in the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So you have all kinds of different information floating out there. You need someone that knows exactly what to do. You need someone that knows what the current guidelines are. A lot of that COVID stuff is coming from maybe the CDC and the ADA and all that stuff. But those OSHA, hiring a third party for your OSHA is a huge benefit, not just because of that, but look at all those sheets you have to keep track of.
Right?
Like, are we
No.
doing paper? I mean, I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in an office. So do we still have to have the binder, or can it be digital?
Right. Yeah.
And I really don't think like an hour recorded video once a year is enough to keep your team current,
Mhm.
especially right. They need a safe space to ask questions and
Mhm.
get educated.
Yeah.
And if your team feels safe and confident, your patients will see that, and your patients will be comfortable in your office. I mean, that kind of ties into marketing. Like, people talk about your office and they say, those people know what they're doing. That team
Mhm.
knows what they're doing.
Yep.
I felt very comfortable, very safe, especially during COVID. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're getting reviews online about how comfortable people felt in your office, you should be like sharing that with the world. Like, hey,
Yeah.
people, you're doing a great job, you know.
Yeah, that's
But
such a good point. I mean, and that actually, you touched on something there that made me think, because whenever a patient sees that going on in the practice, as far as they've got this high level, of protocols and processes going on, in the back of their mind, it also tells them you're up on everything else. So you're up on the dental
yes,
technology, you're up on your education, and all of those things. The latest trend or whatever is out there in dental right now. So
yeah.
it's kind of a psychological thing too.
Yeah, yeah. Agree. It's good for everybody. And again, your team feels confident. When your team feels confident and they are well trained and they have time to
Mhm.
do their job and they have time to do it efficiently and effectively, that lowers raises your retention right there.
Yeah.
You're golden. So,
Yeah.
but those are some great things to consider when you're thinking about outsourcing OSHA and infection control. The
Yeah.
last thing is marketing. And of course,
Right.
we're going to be biased here. Just going to
A little
warn
bit,
everybody
little bit.
just a tad. But honestly, it's no secret that our most successful clients are the ones that have dedicated team members or team member, or even just one person part time to work on marketing, to
Mhm.
capture those marketing moments, to meet with their marketing team.
Yeah.
Those, there's no question at all. And so when you consider outsourcing marketing, or you consider having someone in the office do it and no
Mhm.
one else, here's the thing: you're still going to have someone to like to have your to host your website,
Right.
but what if there's changes to the website?
Mhm.
Like, I've talked, we talked to some new clients, and there's people on the website that haven't been there in forever, you
Right.
know right. So
I see that a lot.
yeah, exactly. Like, you need someone on your team, or you need someone on, not in your office team, but you need someone to help you with
Your
that.
arsenal, yeah.
Yeah, and if you tell an assistant, say, hey, can you do marketing part time? They don't know how to monitor keywords or website traffic, or
Right.
know which
We
digital.
don't we don't want them to, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, we want the dental assistant to be doing dental assisting. We don't want her focused on keyword and SEO strategy.
And they don't want to do it.
No.
you know so you have to figure out exactly what that marketing team member is supposed to be doing, first of all, and then what is supposed to being done in general
Mhm.
beyond
Abs
that. um so you need someone that can help you figure out which digital marketing efforts are working, which ways to promote a service beyond just posting it on social media. I mean, there's a lot more to it. You're not going to get people coming to do Botox just because you posted it on Facebook. There's a lot more that needs to be done in order to promote that service.
Yeah.
You could. I'm not saying you can't.
You
You
could.
absolutely could. It's
Yeah.
very possible.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there are some offices that do a fantastic job with their internal marketing, to the
Yes.
point where they don't need a lot of help,
Yeah.
so, and that's fine. If you have that internal, those processes in place where you're getting those patients, that is great. Go for it.
Mhm.
More power to you. But you still want a company that can write content, monitor your SEO, sends you reports so that you know what they're doing and they're transparent about their work. Is readily available to help you, if something happens to your website, keeps you in the loop on what your budget is going towards, helps you come up with it. And, on that, I've talked to SEO some DSO organizations, and the marketing person that's in charge of all these offices, when they start to come together or when they gain a new office, I will often hear that marketing person say, yeah, this office joined our DSO, but they have no idea what their marketing company is doing for them. It shouldn't be like that, So, and you also need someone to come up with ideas and things like that. So, I would say that the marketing is a nice one to have, but if you dive deep, are you getting, there's so many questions you can ask yourself to determine if that's something that you need to outsource, especially, are you getting the right kind of patients? Are you loving the patients that are walking through your door? You're not going to love them all.
Right. But
definitely not. But you love most of them,
Yes.
And so you need a marketing company that can help you do that. And I mean, I mentioned all those things because we do all those things.
Who does all those things, Bridget? Little shameless plug here for Roadside Dental Marketing. Exactly. Absolutely. Well, and I'll start to kind of wrap us up here a little bit, but that's, such good information that you have laid out, because just these 4 areas that you've mentioned, I think even if somebody did one of them and started outsourcing one of them, they would start to see more time over here that they can dedicate, like you said, to the full client concierge experience, to the total package. And you'd be surprised, just even 5 extra hours in the week, what a difference that can make in your overall practice. So yeah, I was going to say, start with marketing and outsourcing that. But absolutely. I mean, this has just been such great information. Is there anything else you want our watchers to know about?
I think that's it. I mean, you and I have a pretty good list of people in our head, and so if anyone wants to know who we would recommend, we're happy to help. We're happy to find someone, or ask your fellow office managers and all those forums and things like that. Like, really get some good information. So.
Absolutely. Such good advice. Well, thank you, Bridget, for joining us today. This has been
good to be on again with you.
Super fun. We feel like we need to have a cup of coffee where we're just chatting.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, awesome. That's all we've got for today. So next time, join us on Roadside Live, and we will see you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.